We are going to talk about molecular switches. Molecular switches are components of signaling pathways. They initiate the process of signaling and they control the process of signaling in response to stimuli. Now we are going to see what is the nature of switches and how best we can draw a similarity between molecular switches and the switches that we are familiar with. Well, first of all, let us define the term switch itself. You can talk about switch as a noun and as a verb. As a noun, it is just a device that we use to switch a device on or off. And as a verb, it is an action. There are two states of a process: a state when the process is not functioning or off, and a state when the process is functioning or on. Now, when the process changes from off to on or on to off, we say that the process is switching between the off and the on and the off conditions. Now, just to take a very simple example, what you're seeing in the right hand corner is an electrical switch that we're all familiar with. There is a standard on position and an off position. And when we switch it on, a bulb lights up. When we switch it off, the bulb goes dark. So basically, the lighting of the bulb is a process. The bulb is delivering light, it's a process. The bulb is not delivering light, it is the cessation or the ending of a process. And the switch helps the process to toggle between these two states of on and off. Now, what is necessary for the switch to be activated? There are two things. One is the sentiment or the idea that I should switch the light on. And the second is the small amount of energy. However small, there is definitely an amount of energy needed to switch the position or to change the position of the switch from on to off or from off to on. Now, these two things must be kept in mind, because together the idea that we need light or we don't need light and the small amount of energy that we need to move the switch to the on or off position, these two constitute the stimulus. Once a device has been switched on, it is necessary that it should be switched off after a certain period of time or after the use of that device or that process is no longer needed. So there are basically three types of switching off processes. One is a time-based switching off process, where once you start a process, a timer starts ticking, and after a certain time, the process simply ends by itself. This is a passive switch off. Then there is a third-party passive switch off thing, where the process is initiated by a stimulus. The stimulus is a completely optional thing. It may or may not be there, but if it is there, the switch will be thrown on. The switching off process is a passive process in the sense that there are other mechanisms that are always active and their only task is to switch these processes to the off position. Now, this is where constitutivity comes in. Constitutivity means that there are processes that are always on. So you need an active stimulus to switch a device on or to switch a process on, and you need a passive service which is always on to switch the process off. Obviously, when the stimulus is there, the switching is very rapid, but this constitutive switching off is a relatively slow process. And then there's another kind of switching off where the process or the device governed by switch, it becomes overactive or it exceeds its limitations, and this overactivity results in deactivation or switching off. For example, when you switch on your air conditioner, when a particular temperature is reached, a thermostatic sensor senses the temperature and switches the compressor off. So this is a condition-based switching off. The second kind of thing that we studied is not a condition-based switching off. What you're seeing here are some 7 odd logic gates, which all of us are familiar with. These are always present in a microcomputing device. All these logic gates function on different logics, but there is one thing common between them, that there is a condition which must be met for the output to be produced. Now, I'm not going to go through the details of these logic gates. You must already be familiar with them. But just keep this in mind, that the only condition that we are going to talk of is that if there is a condition, if a required condition is met, then the switch is going to be switched on. Otherwise, it's going to be switched off. So just to sum it up, there are two conditions of on and off. The switch is going to exercise complete control over the process they are meant to govern. They require a stimulus to be switched on. To be switched off, there are different types of mechanisms. And the process of switching off is usually constitutive. That is always on. The process that is controlled by these molecular switches is usually quite complex, and much more, in fact, much more complex than the switching on or off of these switches themselves. Now we are going to look at an actual molecular switch. What you see at the top of this diagram is an inactive G protein. G proteins are basically GTPases that perform two actions. A, they cleave GTP as their name suggests, and B, they interact with other proteins and make them active. So the inactive G protein binds the GDP from the previous cycle of catalysis. Then we see here that there is a GEF on the right side of the diagram. And the GEF is nothing but a guanine nucleotide exchange factor. It pulls the GDP out of the catalytic side. And there is so much of GTP around in the cell that it is automatically replaced in the G protein, and the G protein turns on. It is going to remain on until it catalyzes the hydrolysis of this GTP molecule back to GDP. So it is like a timer-based switch. The time it takes to catalyze this hydrolysis reaction is going to be the time that it remains active. Now this activity can be hastened by the intervention of a GAP or a GTPase activating protein that tricks the timer, makes it faster, and allows inactivity to come quicker. Now this is the actual diagram of a G protein. You can see that here a molecule of GDP binds. This is the inactive state of the protein. Once this molecule of GDP is withdrawn and it is replaced by GTP, two effector regions are exposed, and these effector regions interact with other proteins to make them active. Then another kind of a molecular switch is HSP27. You can see that this is a dimer here, and these are 3 phosphates on each of the monomers of HSP27. If these phosphates are removed, it becomes an aggregate of HSP27, and these activities which are written below this aggregate, these take place. If this aggregate is once again phosphorylated back to the dimer state, another different set of activities takes place. So this is a unique switch in the sense that it does not switch between on and off, it actually switches between 2 sets of activities. So to summarize this entire lecture, molecular switches are activated on the basis of events. It's an event-based thing. The event causes, or the stimulus causes, a change in conformation of the oligomeric or the oligomeric state of a protein molecule, and this changed conformation or oligomeric state toggles between 2 states, let's say conformation 1 or conformation 2 or oligomerization 1 or 2. One of these is on, the other is off, or one of these represents one state, another one represents another state. And that is how molecular switches are integrated into signaling systems.